of course, it was not without its barriers. One of the big ones being the timetable from a secondary perspective. So the way we tried to organise it, we had 2 Year 7 classes paired with 2 Year 8 classes. What we tried to do was to make sure that our Year 8 teachers, we had a maths person there and a science person, and that across the 4 teachers in that team, there was someone who was strong with technology. And then what we did at the secondary school was we gave to that pair of maths science teachers, the same cohort of students that they were teaching across multiple classes, but the same cohort. And then we actually put their lessons side by side or consecutively at various times during the week so that they had a bigger chunk of time in which they could team teach those kids, and a bigger chunk of time where we could invite our primary school counterparts to come in and work with our students. Which brought us to the next big challenge, logistics. When you're talking 2 Year 7, 2 Year 8 classes, we were talking in excess of 100 students, busing them from site to site, and also where to put them. We needed spaces that were big enough to cater for them that wouldn't disrupt the rest of the school that was going on. So that was a barrier. Who do we get to teach these classes? We need to identify the right teachers. How are we going to collaborate across school? Because, you know, being DECT schools, you know it's hard enough to collaborate within a school sometimes with the platforms we work with, let alone across schools. So we all decided that we would work with the Google suite, and we all put in the risk assessments in order to do that. And that is still not without its problems, is it, Casey? Look, we found it really good as a collaboration tool, but of course you have to go through the lengthy process with DECT of making sure that each site has done the risk assessment and that all teachers have got passwords that enable them to get into it and are comfortable with using it. So at the start of the project, we actually ran some sessions on how to use it, and we spent some time setting that up and doing our risk assessments and sharing those around the partnership so that the other schools could just use those and get those signed off. It's still not without its issues though, because I think most people seem to be using it okay, but Casey was just even telling me this morning that there are still some issues, like whilst it was fine last year, this year again, it seems to be causing a few issues, so she'll be speaking to our network manager. If you're talking staff-to-staff collaboration, it's not an issue. I thought if you're referring to student-to-student collaboration, then that is more difficult, and even with Office 365, we'll wait to see how that pans out, but I think that's always going to be more difficult just because of the duty of care issues around that.
Couple of groups, I know that most of us have also used Google Classrooms as a part of it where the students can get on and access resources, so that was really good, but then it again depends on students cannot, you can just restrict them from editing anything, so they can at least access the resources, or if something has been uploaded, so that can go through the teacher, so we have better control of the content.
When would we provide the collaborative professional learning time? And we were able to overcome this in part because, as I mentioned, we've got professional learning time embedded into the Nord Moyalda High School structure in each week in any case. So that meant that at least half the teachers we knew we could free up for that period of time. So that helped. Resourcing responsiveness, when you no longer know what the answer to the problem you're posing is going to be, you don't actually know what resources you need. So we had to come up with a model, a just-in-time model, whereby teachers could work with their students and then talk about what resources they need, and then we'd get it for them so that they were able to then progress with the next part of their projects. And the other big thing was, what assessment and planning tools were we going to use to make sure that this wasn't yet another ad hoc STEM thing that was happening, but that we did have the rigour with the learning areas that we wanted. We did have the STEM dispositions and capabilities being explicitly looked at, and how did we keep that consistent so that that did actually happen?